Hey everybody, DayTraderRockStar here, and the high probability watch list for the week of, and it'll be June 17th when the market opens in again on Monday. So it's going to be a great watch list. It's going to be a combination of a lot of education here. We're going to be talking about a new topic and some things, and mainly because the market has been so volatile today, this past week, the trade negotiations, the market has been up at this level. People are fighting back and forth. We're not getting over this little hump here at 2,900. So we're going to talk a lot about that. But my real topic of conversation today is going to be how to determine long-term bottom. We don't talk about a time frame as much, other than we concentrate on the 1 minute, the 5 minute, the 60, and the daily usually. But very rarely we look at the weekly and the monthly. And they're important to look at. They are. And I want to show you why today and how you could use those to make a really good decision on a trade and actually keep you in a trade. Because we're gonna be talking a lot about that. And I'm excited for this video. So probably going to be light on the HPS setups. Of course, I do have some for you. But with this volatility that's happening, actually, I want to show you a different chart here instead of looking at that len. Let's just start off and start talking about the markets. This is the daily right here. And we seem to be consolidating very close to the all-time highs here. All-time highs, less than 2%, I think. That's what I'm hearing on the street. I haven't measured it out myself. But all-time highs right up there. I mean, you could see it on the chart how close it is. Now, this tends to be a dangerous situation. Yeah, I expect us to take out the highs, but even if we have a tight consolidation, which we are getting here, like a little flag, lots of times we'll see that the market will take out the weak hands underneath before reversing and moving higher, because this doesn't need to go straight up. This actually can pull back, reverse, and then run higher. And the same thing could make a false run up and then roll over. We don't know. We don't know what the news is going to be out there, Plus there's oil issues and there's Iran issues and there's a lot of stuff up here. But the way the market is acting is telling you that it really does want to go higher. So there's a bunch of catalysts out there. And I should bring up a notepad here just to write them down. Hold on a second. All right, so I just wrote out some of these things so I could speed up the process. But these are all the things that are kind of overhanging the market. And I know I'm leaving some out. But, of course, the China-U.S. Trade deal, that is out there. That's number one. You're hearing a lot of chatter around the upcoming potential Fed rate cut. And this is, tends to be bullish for the market. The market's looking at this and could be pricing this in. That's why the market seems to be holding strength. There's a lot of people looking at this one right here and saying, all right, well, the market might be anticipating this. And even though we had some bad news this morning out of the semiconductor index, Broadcom with a massive smackdown and a warning going forward, the market's overall hanging in there. And that actually, this right here could help with, people, they're looking for basically evidence to justify a rate cut. And something like this right here would justify that rate cut, or at least have, more of a positive effect on the rate cut decision on that because of the warning and, that's how things work. I don't get too into it. So then we have the Iran oil situation. Oil's over there in the Gulf, and the tanker was attacked in Iran. Just a lot of stuff going on there in the background. It's just distracting. And, whatever happens over there with the oil, oil is a big factor in the market. Sometimes the oil rallies, the market rallies. Oil gets hit, the market could get hit. Different plays on that. And tariffs. There's a lot of experts talking about the tariffs these days and the effect on the economy and the long-term effect. But that's probably is going to be behind us once the deal comes. The tariffs are basically there for, a negotiation to get this trade deal done. I'm sure the trade deal comes, the tariffs come off, or at least everything gets factored in. So I wouldn't put too much behind that. And I think the people who are worried about that are, that's going to probably be a short-term effect. Iran oil tanker attack, can't make a call on that. The future Fed rate cut, yeah, it's coming down. People are talking about it. The China-U.S. trade deal, it's going to happen. All right, it's going to happen, but maybe the G20 is going to be starting soon. They're supposed to have a meeting there. So all this stuff is overhanging the market. Secondary factors, is there too much on the back of the FANG stocks? Meaning, there's regulatory issues now happening and investigations happening on Facebook. All right, Facebook, Apple, of course, is always out there. But any of them, Amazon, Facebook, Netflix, Google, especially I left out Google before. There is a lot riding on those stocks, and they hold a high percentage weight in the S&P and the other indexes. So if they do get hit or there's anything coming out, that kind of drags down the market. So you have to always watch that. And we've had that happen recently. We haven't had the biggest moves in these FANG stocks. They've actually been weak. Semiconductor warning just came out today. Well, you know what? They're blaming it on China, Huawei, some other things. So that might just be a buying opportunity down here. And then, of course, China's slowing economy, concerns for global growth, and China has announced they're going to be using stimulus, which should, again, that's probably going to be a fix down the road. And I'm not an expert on this, but these are the issues that are overhanging us, and makes it, kind of a little bit more difficult to watch the market here go up to all-time highs. Now we have all this happening. All this is happening in front of us. Yet the market is less than 2% off, or 2% off, about 2 to 3% off the all-time highs. So that is a bullish indication. That's definitely a bullish indication. My call at this point right now is a breakout higher. I think down the road we will get some kind of China deal which will propel the market higher. A lot of things will clear up. They're going to say, it's going to be very bullish for the market. So how high do we go? Well, we get through the all-time highs. We probably get through 3,000. After that, I'm not exactly sure, but I will be looking for the signs of a sell the rally type of event, where we do get a pop and and then eventually roll over and leave a divergence. Now, I'm looking for that divergence signal. So, we would need to have that. And you could see it actually happen here on a weekly, because we're going to be talking about the weekly setups here in a second. And it just happens to be a good example to show the weekly here. This is where we want to see that big divergence. Now, if we look back in the history of this, very hard to see a big topping divergence because the market's been so strong. It wasn't really the closest thing we had here, where we pulled back and bounced, and we just failed and rolled over. Now, does that look kind of similar? It kind of does. Do we roll over here and either way? So we'll say we have good news. So say we have that good news, something propels this market, we break out. But the stochastics here on a weekly basis fail to take out the highs or go back up to the highs, and they start stalling here. Just start going sideways as the market's moving higher. That means the momentum has dried up. You are getting that effect. This is a perfect scenario for a divergence. It happens on news where the price artificially spikes, but the momentum underneath that you can measure it with the stochastics are not following through. So you can't see that unless you see the stochastics here fail. I apologize for that important call. So anyway, that's will be the scenario for divergences. Usually divergences happen on a lot of volume. Lots of times we'll see our divergence when we scalp the markets early in the morning. We see it on news early at 9:30 when the market opens, when there's a lot of volume in the market and there's big whoops. It doesn't give the momentum and the oscillator enough time to catch up. So you see the reactions on the chart, but there's no reaction on the oscillator, or at least in the stochastics in general. So you start to be able to read that real time. So that's what I'm basically looking for. So definitely looking for some upside, taking out the highs. But after that, You know, it's a different story. I think we're going to run though a little. You know, that's gonna be the tricky part, is where we're going to be able to see that, and that's why I'm going to depend on a signal. If we don't get the signal, hey, you know, the market is for whatever I want it to be. You know, I don't have to trade it if I don't want it. I can wait for the setups to come to me, and that's what I'll probably end up doing, is just waiting for a clearer signal if we don't get that divergent sell, and just continue to trade. Things are good on the bot. We're moving ahead really fast on that, and it's just killing it now, and we're just about ready to put it on its own little section here. I want to actually see if I could bring that over here. I'm just showing you some of the bot stuff today. Like, how do I do that? Let me hold on. Let me fix this better. Apologize for that. All right, well, I can't get the full screen on there because I started my stream on a different size, and I want to keep that on the bot channel right now. But just letting you know that, you know, especially if you're a scalper and you're trading the futures, trading the new micro futures, you gotta have the bot on your side. The bot and the tradeometer combination has been unbelievable, and you could see just today some of the signals. Now I have just a very, you know, basically we use this to identify the trade zones. Identify the trade zones down here long. They'll be all labeled out. We're finishing up labeling them. You start to see some of the labels coming through. Profit taking. It has a scale out process and a trailing stop, and it just works so well, even though it didn't catch that big move. But basically, this is supposed to identify the levels you want to be in. So it identified that level, this level for scalps. It's just working so well. And you know, I just want to just keep everyone abreast of the progress on that. And now I've started to, what I'm doing is I have it on my other screen here, a 5-minute version, and I've been watching that a lot, and that has been really key in calling some of the longer term bottoms. Just during the day, especially if you're trading the micros. This works great because you get a good, we go out here, you get a 5-minute divergence. And just remember, if you get a 5-minute divergence, basically you're talking about each one of these candles are 5 minutes. Could be a whole day's of action upside. It gives you so much more room to run, so much more time to work with that setup, instead of seeing that volatility. And this is not even optimized really for the 5-minute. I'm going to optimize a little bit more to let these profits run. But it does pick the areas perfect. So I have this running right next to me. You can see it right now. It's running right next to me. And I take I trade in the micros off of this. I like this. I have my another computer right next to me. And whenever I get a divergence signal, here's a great one right here on this. I just go in with the micros, and I hold them, and I hold that low right underneath. And, you know, I'm not in it that long, but I'm in it longer than I am in a 1-minute time frame. So I'm making some good money on just trading those little pops and not being so aggressive, not being so anxious about my trade, being in and out, you know, watching that. Because that 5-minute, once you have that 5-minute on your side, you tend to get more upside. If you look at some of these, they might say, let's say here. Like here, this 5-minute candle here, even though it's a long and then stop, it really did call the long as a divergence. The divergence was nice, it called it, but because of the range on the 5 minutes, not optimized for that. It has a tighter stop. With this, you have to have a little looser or a long, bigger stop and a bigger profit potential. But again, I'm using it. I understand that concept, so I'm able to use that. So you're going to actually have this chart also on the bot channel. Right now there's nothing going on. I'm actually watching this right now, waiting for that 5-minute. There hasn't been really one today. And it's been a very slow day. It's been a very, very slow day. It's almost in a big pennant formation. Maybe it's flagging out for flag day. But look at that. That is a huge pennant formation here. And it's just, you know, maybe we're going to get a break here at one point. I hate these patterns too, just to let you know. This pattern here, the pennant or the triangle, tends to the direction, the first breakout is not always the direction of the breakout. Usually lots of times you break down and then reverse up, or break out and reverse down. I do not put anything in this pattern other than we are looking for a bigger move. Probably
Order
based
submitted.
There it is. What's going on there? Holy crap, a live 5-minute setup. A live 5-minute setup. All right, I just took that trade. I want to let it run here for a while. I want to move my stop down. Well, this is actually, I put it on my laptop, but I'll put that stop down here. And that's, I actually have the identical trade over on my laptop here. Now remember, this is a 5-minute time frame. So I'm going to let that play out. So I was glad to see that. That's working fine. And we'll come back and maybe take a look at that as we continue on with the video. So that's what we are standing there on the bot, looking good. I'll be working on it again tonight. Just setting up the alerts and stuff, making sure everything is up to par. So that brings us into the topic of conversation and understanding the conditions that the market's in. We were looking at that 5-minute time frame. We looked at the daily. We're going to concentrate on some stocks that we do every week on the daily. But when we talk about looking at the weekly time frames, something else happens. Something bigger happens. So I'm going to go over my HPS watch list. These are the stocks that I tend to, well, I scan on a regular basis and pick my HPSs. So there's 214 stocks on the list right now. These are stocks that I tend to go to, and if any of these line up into a trade setup, one of the playbook plays. Here we go. Market here rallying now off of that 5-minute. We'll show you that in a second. So just to give you an example, we're going to look at the weekly. All right. So here we have Facebook weekly. Now weekly, if you didn't know it was a weekly, you didn't look at it. This could look like a daily chart too. It looks identical to how we traded on the daily. A pullback on the daily. We can just zoom in a little. All right. So daily oversold, the bounce, daily overbought, pullback. Here's basically the daily setup. Look at that pullback from August to December. Just what we're now. If we look at the weekly, same thing. It's just you can't really almost tell the difference of the patterns. It's just not as many candles, and the moves are the same, but they take less candles. So we're still looking for that same setup. To go over here fast here, just give me an update because this is where you're going to make your money with the bot this year. And here we are. It's already taken off. Giddy up. So you can see Facebook turning around. So these have all pulled back. We talked about the FANG stocks getting hit earlier, and this being a FANG stock, and you can see the whole month of May was pulled back, and then we had this big candle. And typically on a daily candle like this, we call it a hammer. That's a bullish, reversal candle. So if we find a hammer or an engulfing pattern, a piercing pattern like back here, you find those on the weekly. They tend to be even more powerful than the daily, and you have a much bigger. You don't have to get chopped out as much. This could be actually good and more beneficial for people who don't want to day trade as aggressively every single day, but want to be able to get into a good position and feel comfortable in it and not get shaken out of it. So what you want to do is you want to apply all the same techniques and stuff, but on the weekly time frame. We just adjust it. So these are I'm just going down randomly, these things. Like these are all on the weekly. But one thing I'm noticing here, and it helps me analyze the market, is lots of times that we start to turn back up. And when that weekly starts to move up in a fashion that you're not overbought and you're moving up, that's usually a very positive sign. And they continue to see that follow through. Just like you have a bullish daily candle and a good stochastic rotation, that means the momentum is on your side on the daily. So if we go to the daily here, when you have an upside daily rotation like back here, you get that upside follow through. Up, higher highs over here. You get this move up. You get the higher highs and higher. So if the weekly is just starting off there, that's what you're planning on is down the road, a couple weeks down the road, to be higher off of this. So it gives you an easier, overview of that stock. Now Ulta, look at this one. This is a nice flag, nice reversal candle, holding the 20. This is a very strong stock on the weekly. On the weekly it is. I mean, this is something I would feel comfortable going out, saying, I want to hold this about a month or so. You're going to be expecting some other than news coming out and destroying everything. You have all this momentum. And I'm just going down to each one of these stocks. All of them. Look at this corn. Big reversal candle. Con Edison is kind of higher up there. But, all right, again, here we are. Here's a good example of looking back at a stock like Con Edison. And every time it got oversold on the, where's my circle? This was actually kind of a monthly divergence. Every time you kind of get down here into that oversold level, and that's the problem is you could base out here a couple weeks. So there's always a give and take with everything. If you get down there, it's not exactly down there, it starts turning back up. Well, still, that's a bigger ship to turn, and once this ship gets turned into the right direction, it usually stays there. It's just it's a harder thing to just picture that. Picture a small boat on a daily. You can move that thing all around. But once this thing starts, the momentum starts to shift, and you have the monthly or the weekly candle starting to shift. Even though it's choppy, maybe 1 week's down, the overall trend is up. And so I'm paying more attention to direction. I don't want to try to catch a bottom on this because you could get down here, and it could be a week or two of maybe a little further down. You might be thinking you're in a dog. And that's going to we're going to relate that to the watch list too. Next, I want to show you something on the watch list that we're going to do a little experiment. So again, Con Edison, any of these stocks, you go out on a weekly, and most likely Lululemon.
Order filled.
Oh, there we go. So profits are being taken. A big 5-minute take setup here is ripping. Took out profits there. And let me do it too. And I've closed out mine also here. There we go. All right, let's move this back here. I was showing you the bot there that, like I said, I have on my screen next to me, and I have my laptop with my trading next to me. So I just take, when that triggers, I just go over here, I have a bracket order in, I push the buy button, I take the trade. It's a no stress trade because, again, we're talking about bigger time frames right now. And I'm not that concerned with it. I know over the next 10, 15 minutes, it was a good shot that we're going to continue to move higher. Man, I love that thing. All right. So Lululemon, again, that's very bullish. It got oversold. Started moving, but like I said, it did chop around here and get a little aggressively down. That's why sometimes it's better to wait for that positive candle, that positive rotation, before getting too involved, and so you're not catching a falling knife so much. If you waited that long on a weekly, you might as well. So that's General Mills. I mean, all these, once you start to rotate up, and you got a nice rotation up, it all has some follow through. All of these moves have some follow through. I always have a rule. Oversold to overbought. Oh, look at this! Look at that thing go. When we're oversold on the stochastics, I always have a rule. I expect 5 to 7 candles in the direction of the stochastics to get that follow through. Now, that's usually on the 1 minute time frame. When you're talking about the weekly and daily and stuff, that could be a little bit different, as you can see. But if you're just catching something early in its day, early in its trade, then you gotta just let yourself hang on to it. Let's see what happens here. It's right up here. Now with the bot, I'm just showing you what the bot does here. We got right up to its second target there, and it didn't hit it. I want to see us hit this, so you can see the trail come in. All right. Actually, it has a trail above us right now. So don't worry. It's taken profits. It already has the trail working for it, but I wanted to see it take out the highs, and then it would have one more left.
Tradeometer YM overbought. Tradeometer NQ overbought. Tradeometer ES overbought.
That's what we call a shotgun. Shotgun is when all three of the tradeometers or indexes on the tradeometer, Dow, NASDAQ, the S&P, all get overbought or oversold at the same time. It's like sound effects. I'm watching the bot here, ROCKBOT. All right, it doesn't look like it's going to hit that. It might actually hit the trail, which is either way. It's always a free trade. But and again, remember we talked about this pennant formation that we're looking at? You see this pennant formation? Now, wouldn't be surprised to see a pop and then a rollover and then a drop. So you know what? You gotta just take it off when you have a move. You can't get greedy and say this is going to be a huge move. I like it because it's the 5 minute and we have a 5 minute rotation. But I also that's why we automate it. It's automated here to take that emotion out. You just take it out because the next one that comes up, as I say every single day in the market, when I find a divergence, a good qualifying divergence, look for an aggressive move in the direction of the divergence. And after that, whatever time frame you're working off, once it gets overbought, all bets are off. All bets are off because the market is there's an electronic algorithm here that's sucking up shares, and they know exactly what to do. We're able to identify a good level, but you have to have the discipline and patience to be able to get in and get out and not get greedy. It will give you the move, but you cannot get greedy, and you have to believe if the move doesn't work out, there's a reason you have to get out. You can't, you just can't. You have to have no emotion on this. So not to bore you anymore watching this because it's on the 5 minute time.
Order canceled.
There it goes. Oh, there it is. I'm done. All right, so back to the weekly charts and my HPS watch list. As you can see, Mondelez we've been following for a long time. It had this beautiful consolidation and finally broke out. But right before you got a breakout, you had this weekly oversold level, and then you had a couple good candles, and off to the races it went. And even before that, it had a fast weekly and a downward channel and a nice pop of 4 or 5 weeks. And then back here, it kind of chopped around. But once it got oversold, you slowly move back up. Not saying there was anything out there. There was a divergence here and a slow move up. Overall, this was kind of a boring stock until it finally broke out. But again, nothing I'm interested in right now because it really is extended. There's a 5 minute sell signal. I'm not going to look at that right now. Wait for the next setup. So I go through these, and what I want to do is just kind of go through them and mark off the ones that are oversold. Like here we go, Liberty Global. Oversold, nice move up. Oversold, nice move up. Here this is really a bad case here because you're oversold and you never really get that positive candle. Remember, I think your criteria is to get that move back up above that 20 with a candle that takes out the previous candle's high. So there's got to be a couple things that have to happen. This is the only other time then back here, and back here was not great. That one candle and you're oversold and you started lifting. You did get another follow through, but not much. Here you started moving back up, and you had some follow through. And here you're definitely having a better what we call a Nike check mark. So this is Liberty Global down here. This is kind of interesting. I want to write it down. But I don't know if I'm going to officially put these on. I want you guys to write these down also. And I have a special list for this. So we're going to continue to track this. Here's the daily on this. And you always want to go to the daily too. So nice pullback, represents a weekly. It had a pop and it pulled back. Actually, the daily looks pretty good. It's consolidated up at this level for most of the year. Now we're flagging out, so it's interesting. That was the last time we had that weekly divergence right here, and you can see that nice move up happen. So go back to that weekly. That's where I put that circle in. And then the only other one is right here. So this actually does look like a pretty decent. I wrote it down, so we'll come back to it. And what I'll do is let me just pause it and do my scans and then bring it back to you so you don't have to waste your time. I'll be right back. I'm still going through my scans, but I got to tell you, everything I'm looking at is extremely bullish, especially on the weekly time frames, because we had these rotations down, but then we had these turn back, things are turning back up. Now, like the CMG here, is there a divergence happening? It looks like we're taking out the highs, but we're not above that 80 level here. This seems to be slacking down, lagging down here. Maybe there is something. This was caused by the avocado scare with the tariffs in Mexico a few weeks ago, and that pullback. So that actually, any type of news, sometimes we'll give it an artificial drop real fast, and then we'll bounce right back up, take out the highs, and then kind of really put in a sell signal. But that's, nothing yet. I just wanted to point that out, that a lot of stocks here are very, very strong. I'm just not even, they're pinned up here. A lot of them are breaking out, or very close to breaking out. Very strong market, considering all that big list of things we had overhanging us. Let me get back to the research. The other point I want to say is, going through this, it kind of opens up my eyes how strong some of these stocks are, and to try to bet against them is very dangerous. So even though we're looking at some that are extended, you might say, well, why aren't you looking at some shorts? I don't know. I mean, think about these companies that we're looking at, Waste Management. I mean, certain companies just seem like they're going to continue to go higher. One day we'll look back, and this was a $50 stock. Now it's a $114 stock, and next year it'll be a $200 stock. And back here it was a $20 stock, and it just continues to go up. It's very rare that you're going to get a nice pullback, and there has to be something in the market that's going to give you that opportunity. So, that's the difficult thing about the weekly, especially in this environment. I mean, you really have to find, on the daily, you probably get a little better pullbacks and stuff. But there's a lot to do in trading to be, to be on top of everything. But this is, again, just kind of giving you an example of all these stocks, like Visa. Last time Visa really got oversold, it was a tremendous opportunity. So it's important to kind of identify those. And I think it's probably a good time to identify those. Bristol Myers is kind of interesting here. Kind of interesting. It's starting to turn back up a bit. Clorox, interesting. Definitely. Breaking out, pushing a little higher. And again, I can't, same thing. Let's continue on. I just got to bring this back on, because look at these weekly charts. I mean, Coca-Cola at the highs. Costco at the highs. Just DHR, Danaher, at the highs and very strong. MasterCard, look at that. All these weekly setups back here were just opportunities. Probably, hopefully not to say once in a lifetime opportunities. It's almost like the gig is up and there's like, well, we're not letting these things come back down ever. I mean, that's a weekly candle. Amazon's interesting here because they had a little pullback and it seems to be starting to turn back up. So we actually have kind of a flag here and a reversal candle and a little pop on Amazon. AMZN. I'll be right back. I got some other ones for you, but I want to pause this. I got some that I've written down, but I want to finish the whole scan here, and then we'll recap. All right, so I got my research done for the weekly quality names that are oversold and that are starting to move back up. It's kind of better for swing traders to look at these, but they're also good to combine these with the daily charts to have them on your side. So with that said, let's start taking a look at some of these. Alexion Pharmaceuticals Again, just a standard wave action, sideways consolidation. But every time you get down here, you bounce back up, pull back, bounce, pull back, bounce, pull back, bounce, pull back, oversold, bounce, pull back, getting oversold again. And the base is okay. So I like this. This is going to be, this is one of my one of my favorites because it's not like suffering from stock rot, where it's been going down too much, like in a direct straight down line. It's been mainly consolidating here for a couple of years in a big range, 145 to 150 point range, right in the middle of that, but we're oversold. So, a good shot that we actually start to move back up and possibly take out take out this consolidation area. All right, this next one I really like too. JBHT here, JB Hunt. I didn't show up here. JBHT. There we go. Take a look at this. I've always gotten in this one, traded nice. It's pretty organized. Look at the daily first. Daily here is coming down. I think there was a large double bottom back here last 2017 January. Came down close to it in 2019, and then we just tagged it here to the middle of 2019. Starting to turn back up. It's starting to bounce, but take a look at the weekly. Weekly gives you a much more interesting picture. You have a little channel here, and you're starting to come up. You didn't get back above that line, but you're starting to rally here a little. And again, if you start to get this momentum back above that 20, some good candlesticks, this is not that far from the highs. It looks like a standard pullback. And any talk on infrastructure, shipping, and or anything, even if we get past this trade deal stuff, all these stocks should pop. And this one actually looks like a good setup here on the weekly. So let's just keep on going. We've got a lot of these. I have a special one for you. Amazon, we actually talked about that for a second. Amazon's starting to turn back up. Momentum here starting to drive back up. Very strong. It's even stronger for a stock not to get oversold, but to start to turn back up. So this is actually quite bullish on Amazon. But again, $1,800 a share. So have fun with that. CCL here, Carnival Cruise Line. One of the things you're going to be seeing here are most of these stocks are what should I say? Quality names. So here we have Carnival Cruise Line. Traded this one before. Again, take a look at the daily, which you're normally looking at, and it's just been kind of a grind out. There was a kind of a double bottom divergence, a very steep stochastic rotation here with almost a double bottom, which gave us this nice big move, and then it rotated down and bounced, rotated down and bounced, and then it's been kind of just drifting here. Now we're kind of extended here on the daily, but we seem to be embedded and maybe a little flag here forming. So let's take a look at the weekly. Now the weekly here just getting oversold and starting to see a couple candles coming back up on the weekly. It's okay. I don't see myself getting into it, but I wanted to mark it down as one of those oversold setups. Now gold, I had a good conversation with my friend George on gold and stuff. He loves gold going into a rate cut. And gold actually showing pretty nice stuff here. It actually rotated out. It got oversold, rotated out, and it's not extremely overbought. It's actually kind of underneath that signal line of ours. It's still underneath that 80, even though it says 86. That's because it's measuring the K line. But you can see that the D line here just still up there. It hasn't, and I just like that as a long consolidation base. Starting to break out. I think we still have more upside on that gold, but I'm not a gold trader. UHS, United Health Services. Traded that one before. It's underlying trend line. A lot of things going for this. First of all, you have this underlying trend line, 200 period moving average. It bounced here off the 200. It bounced here off the 200 and the trend line. Now you have the 200 and the trend line again, and you're starting to see an oversold stochastic. Here you had the oversold stochastic. Here you had the oversold stochastics. Over here, you had the same thing. So every situation you had that set up, we had a breakout. Not that far from highs. You got to put this on your list. Again, see when we get oversold. Let's do an experiment here. I have a a little tool on this chart. Say you start to get a move up here and you have about a month's upside. A month's upside. So that gave you about a 14% move over 28 days, about a month or 3 or 4 weeks. That's about 28 days right there. So 3 or 4 weeks of movement, and you get a 14% move, which is about a 15-point move on that. 15-point move. Back here, you basically had the same thing, and back here you had a little bit more. So right here, if you're going to project something out and say, all right, let's go out about 20. I think I have a thing. I'm not going to actually, the trading view charts actually have a better thing. But let's just say on a nice, we're looking at 132. And you know, that could happen in 6 weeks. About 6 weeks. 6 weeks out. So that's one way of actually just kind of projecting some things out here and look at options on that. Either way, that's why we like this. It looks good. The 123s right here on the UHS. Couple great charts here. Kraft Heinz here. We had this long consolidation, and we broke down, and we looked for this to return back. We did well on this. We got in on this breakdown. I did take some back here too, so I cost averaged in. Overall, the trade came right back up to that breakout spot, and that's important. That's a good level. Whenever we break down out of a consolidation, we tend to come back and retest the zone that we broke down out of. Now, we didn't even get back up there, but this also shows up on the weekly as a nice setup here. You can see better the consolidation, the breakdown now starting to move back up, and also moving up on the stochastics. So this actually gets back above the 20. I like this for a long here. Take a look at the daily one more time just to see that the last few days here have just been consolidating sideways. But I think we're going to reevaluate this and get in it again and go a little longer. So I want to put that one on the on my paper here. So UHS. All right. So that one. And here's another good. Remember all these names here. Are some good quality names. Take a look at the CVS. Now it's a nice downward channel. I've traded CVS before, not too often. I don't like it too much, but the weekly is a little more interesting. It's basing out here. We're starting to turn back up, and just it does look interesting down here. So I'm bringing these to you. You could write them down. So here's an index, IWM here, the Russell 2000. Here's the ETF on that. It was an old trend line here. We came back and revisited here, and then we bounced off it here. But look, stochastics on the weekly chart have gotten into an oversold level, and there's a little support line here. So that's really nice too. And again, you don't see too often when the Russell here, big index, small cap, oversold, big bounce, fast rotation down, oversold, big bounce, fast rotation down, oversold, big bounce, fast rotation down, a small bounce and a failure, and then a breakdown, oversold, and a big bounce, and now we're back down here, trend line. So this looks good. This is actually very good. We like to see the small caps, perform. And looking at this on the weekly, if this is just starting to move, this should move up here pretty good. So the IWM is key here. And believe it or not, another great stock here showing up on the list. Apple, can you believe it? Apple just got down here, started turning back up. Definitely off the highs, but this looks good. I like the Apple here. I like the Apple, always like the Apple. No position in it now. Just, was watching it a couple, let's take a look at this nice move up, because we've been part of this bounce to the upside, and today was pulled back a little bit. This still looks pretty good going into next week. I think 200 is not a problem with this. So I want to keep an eye on the Apple going into next week. AAPL. And, definitely think I want to be in on this if we start to break here. If we take a look at that 60-minute time frame, you see there's a slight pullback. Very slight trend line here developing here. So I want to watch it. Probably a break, just to break it back above 194. I think we're going to take that trade on options also. So Apple making it to the list. Looking very nice. General Dynamics, GD. It's an interesting one. Here's the weekly on that. Let's take a look at the daily. Here's the daily. A nice downward move. But the weekly here, again, situation where we got oversold and we're starting to bounce back up off of an old trend line. It's kind of not a very good trend line there. There, that's a better one right there. It's a nice 1, 2, 3 pattern. We kind of got through that level, bounced back into it. Again, it's the same situation. What do we have here? We have a weekly oversold and start a rotation back up. So these are all very interesting. A lot of them too. I mean, if these all played out, that would be very bullish for the market, I think. UPS, same thing. Oversold, bounce, right down the line on a support line. UPS, you got to mark it down. Altria, gotta like it. Big name. Nice pullback, starting to get oversold on that one. And then Brinker, EAT. Been watching, been liking Brinker down at this level, lower trend line, and now the weekly setup. So we have that going for you. All right, the next one I'm really liking here is Southwest Airlines, and daily has pulled back some. I mean, it's given us good trading opportunities. Pull back, push, pull back, push, pull back. What's next? You got it. A nice push out of this and higher. So the pullback here is really good. I mean, people are not going to stop flying. And we have the weekly in our favor with a nice downward channel line. So weekly is actually starting to turn back up. We have a good candle here. Yeah, everything looks pretty good here. Again, if you're looking at projection, if you had a move of 3 candles here and it moved up about 11%, if we get a nice move back up towards those highs, that would be about a 12% move, just to get us back up to recent highs here. Not that far. You know, it's a nice move. I think it's a good risk reward. You have everything in your favor. Even the daily has kind of gotten embedded up here. You know, they have the trend line. A breakout of the two candles here would probably be key. But if we actually start, you know, understanding about the rotation here, that 60-minute here might even better to buy into the weakness here instead of buying the strength. LUV. So that is on the list for next week. Definitely something I'm interested in. Let's continue on here. Now I know I'm breaking these down to the weekly time frames. Here's a new one. I haven't gotten into this. I have to look at it a little bit better, but take a look at the daily on this thing. This thing is just globant technology sector. I don't even know what it does, but I can tell you what, this thing has just been moving up. And so under $100 still, and that sounds, some people would say, oh, $100, that's expensive. Well, in this day and age with tech stocks, it might not be that expensive. So I want to look into this a little bit more after I get the video out and just kind of catch myself up exactly what they are and what they do and what the earnings outlook are, you know, everything about it. And definitely something I want to take advantage of in the if we have an opportunity, you know, when it gets pulled back here. It's, again, very strong on this thing is an IPO that came out at $10. Now it's you know, it's a 10 bagger basically. It's $100 now. So Glob, Corning. I always like Corning. Haven't been in a while, but Corning is one of the more organized weekly candles or weekly pullback. Oversold, move up. Oversold, move down. Start to move back up. Start to move back down. Overhead resistance is just kind of hanging above us, which is very good. So you could actually put an argument in here, and I don't like to use these patterns as much, but technically this is kind of an ascending triangle. Overall kind of bullish. If we push back up here, eventually breaking out. So everything looks good here on Corning too. That's $30, $30.90. You can send a big picture here. Remember that 2001, this thing used to be $120. That's the weekly on it. The daily, I mean, you had to pull back today. Actually, pulled back pretty hard today and then bounced. So we got down to 30.50. I'm just breaking this one down every which way. The 60-minute looks like a bounce area. Kind of gapped up and sold off on a 60-minute sell divergence. And the daily here, again, still kind of embedded up there. I like this one because of the, you also have a trend line, 1, 2, 3. I like this one because of the weekly mostly. And again, one of those situations where if you could just, see that weekly and just catch a ride on it. It might not happen this week. You might not get that big candle. Maybe you get a smaller candle up. It looks like it wants to go higher. So Corning is set up for next week. The Rubbermaid. I'm in the Rubbermaid, and it's down here, and there's the possibility of a little divergence happening on the weekly. Look at how we're holding above that 20 line, and price came down, took out the lows, and it's slowly moving back up. But nothing really happened here. But there's something about it I like, Again, this is another stock we were in off the lower trend line. It popped. We took it off. It came back down. Got back in it on this consolidation. I like it. I think we could actually move higher on this. But it is one of those cheap ones. But I have it circled as one of the focus stocks next week. And one of my favorites is Fastenal, FAST. Believe it or not, it is showing up on the weekly time frame here. Weekly time frame, oversold, bounce, oversold, bounce. And here we go. Oversold, bounce. Should move higher. They do fast, and it's great infrastructure to play if that ever comes around. Again, here is some good IRA medium-term swing trades. 3 to 4 week trade. Get in, hold it, let that rotation happen. Quality name, unless something serious happens with the economy. I think that these things are just going to continue to grind up. Of course, we have our big ones, which are not showing up on the weeklies, but like our plan, still like plan. Here's plan on the weekly. Now, we've looked at a lot of IPOs, and we could look out years and years and see they doubled in 300% movers. This is, of course, moved up here from 22 to 48. It's doubled, but I expect this to double again this year. So we've taken profits on this, and I'm looking for an opportunity just to get a little pullback. But this is one of my favorites. Plan is hanging in there pretty good. All right, so plan. We talked about the Fastenal and 3M. We did have that trade too, and it's kind of held up here. That's the daily right now. Had a pretty decent down day today. It dropped off early this morning, bounced. Nothing really came from it. And there's 3M right there on the hourly, and here's the daily. We get a little further pullback, but this is another great example. When we break down through a good area, we have this underlying trend line. When you break down through something like that, you tend to come back and test it. And that's exactly what we did. 100% to the tick is what we did with that, and then started to pull back. My guess is that I'm not going to guess on this one. I'm going to let it set up for something. I'm not getting back into it yet. It's on the second tier. All right. So just to update or kind of recap, out of all those stocks, I circled the ones I really like. I think did I circle JBHT? Let me see. JB. I didn't circle a couple of these. ALXN. It's very interesting down here, but I don't see that's the daily, because you have the daily on its side and then the weekly setting up too, and it's in this consolidation. I do like this one as a drug stock. So the JBHT, there we go. Nice trend line, starting to turn back up. UHS, decent underlying trend line, but I'm not getting into that. KHC, I have this. I think I have some of it left. I've already shut down my platform. We did take a lot of profits. I think I have a little bit more of this. And, I think we're heading up here from here. The weekly is set up, starting to turn back up pretty aggressively here, too, getting through that 20. And it's actually almost it's giving us a divergence signal here. And it's we flushed there, and we kind of retesting that breakdown level. And that's what you want to do. So I do like this. I do like the KHC a lot here. Nice turn back up. There is a slight divergence on that weekly. You can see it up here. A slight divergence on that weekly. Way off the highs. I mean, this is due. So yeah, craft is looking good. And then probably one of my favorites, LUV, going out on a weekly. Think we're gonna get back up here. That looks fine. And then the glob, we're going to talk about that. And the Rubbermaid, NWL. Do we have a divergence happening right there? I do believe we do. And we do have it's a nice trend line here. So I'm liking this one a lot too, even though this is the cheap ones. And the cheap ones tend to be very hard sometimes to time. Because I am in Signa. I want to show you what we're in now. That Signa did not work out. It had a little divergence here. And actually, this is one. It didn't break down yet through the divergence low. But it is not acting good. And this was kind of dangerous. Anything under $20, I put a little warning sticker on it saying danger, danger. But I was willing to get in on this one off of the reversal candle and looking for a pop out of here. It did not happen. So we'll have to see what happens next week with it. Just not doing what I would like it to do. But we're going to show you those HPSs right now. All right. So we're going to take a look at the HPS setups here. A couple of these have not even been triggered yet. I mean, they have been triggered. The one that I wanted to bring up is the Boeing, and also keeping the theme on that weekly chart. You can see we had a couple stop outs. Actually, the JBHT was never got in that, and that was a HPS setup. And that's basically two same trades there. So it only is really one stock there. But the Brinker broke down, and the Boeing broke down a little here. Not much, but a little. But when we look at both of these stocks, the Boeing and the Brinker, let's take a look at this right now. Here's the Boeing. You can see we barely tagged our. This is interesting because we kind of just tagged the buy signal. We didn't close above, and that's the hard part on this this platform here. When you try to, let me fix this a little. I'm trying to. You try to, get a breakout and make a move out of this pattern. Lots of times the pattern is very hard. The falling wedge pattern with the divergence. You get a move up to the pattern and you pull back a little. But this was trying to break out, then pulled back. It came down here. It's just on the stops. I am very bullish on the Boeing. I like it a lot here off of that divergence. I just think this is a little too tight of a stop. And, I actually like it a lot for next week going forward. So that ended up, that looks fine. That actually looks fine here. And I'm really bullish on Boeing. I think there's going to be a great opportunity on that. It's holding up good. It's just waiting for something to kind of just get it out there. All the news that's been coming out on Boeing recently hasn't really moved it down too much. They're pushing out the return of their jumbo jet to the airways until August, and nothing's really pushing this thing down. So it's not going down; it's going to go up. And I really do like this stock going forward next week, even though it's a little volatile. I think once it starts to break out, you're going to catch a couple of good days on it. You want to be part of this. So we're definitely going to be focused on Boeing. And I almost want to just continue to keep that buy alert open there. I want to continue to use that 355.70 as a breakout Could even move it down a little. I mean, like I said, I think if we could actually start just moving back up, we're going to be good. So there's going to be that 350 area is actually going to come into play now. BA 350. So watch that 350. I'm not going to put it down on the chart. Watch the 350. 350. You get back to 356. You know you're going to 360 to 370 real fast. So 350, of course, big number. 355, 356, going through that. That opens it up to a target about 360 to 370, and that's all doable. And that could be doable next week. So this is definitely going to be one of the best bets. We'll follow. That's Boeing on the screen right now. All right, next one up is Lumber Liquidators. And this is one of the cheap ones. This is always difficult with a cheap stock. Very, very hard with a cheap stock. Down here, we're looking at just to hold the lows. It's not working out yet. It's kind of popped and dropped, and it's chopping around. It's currently active. So, again, watch that $11 level. Get back above 11 and hold it. We should start moving up on this. As long as we hold that stop down underneath us. But no reason to add here. I am holding some, but no reason to add on this. Not yet, at least. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Boeing's definitely taking a lead, early lead here. The Cigna. Do I even have that chart up there? That's right. The chart was. Let me bring it up over here. I had the problem with my chart on that one. Now this again got looking at this thing as a divergence, but not a that candlestick right there. You can see the candle. This is SIG, and then we got a little pop, but we didn't close above the. Did we even get a pop above that? What was the high on that? Let me double check that right here. Sorry for that pop up there. I think they just come in and they said, "Oh, Johnny got that HPS thing going. His high is up at here, at his buy triggers at 2039." The high here was 2055, and then 2018. Yeah. Well, as you can see, it's still inside this pattern. This will eventually move up again. Probably a situation where we look at some of these, and we take a look at SIG, and we take a look at it on that weekly chart. And of course, the weekly is oversold. It has been oversold. That doesn't mean that we're going to try to catch up. It's not a good one. It's embedded. It's very weak. So dangerous stock, high risk. Anything under $20, extremely high risk. I wouldn't add. I wouldn't do anything. I'm letting it play out. I like the area down here, but it hasn't worked yet. I like the pattern. I like that divergence, and I want to hold above that divergence low, but definitely not looking healthy right now. Saying the Boeing, we talked about the Boeing, one of the best bets. Celanese. I think that was a flag setup, if I remember correctly. Oh no, it was a divergence. All right, so here we had this one. It didn't break out. It came down and then popped and went through the top. Yeah, it's fine. It moved down a little first before breaking its trigger. I was not part of this one. Variant is still active, and I'm not in this one either, but I'll take a look at it again. Again, it's active right now, meaning it didn't break through the buy trigger until it came up to this point. Once it broke through, then it's starting to move back up. It's midpoint into the zone there. I think that's about it on that, right? Then we have 3M. And I do like 3M, but it's not doing much. We pulled back down, we pushed back up, now we're holding the trend line, expecting this to get back up there. It's a back above this trend line. Remember how we always talk about underlying trend line? If you break down through it, you look for a capitulation move underneath it and then a retest. Well, we had that capitulation move, It bounced back up, then pulled back again, then bounced through it, and then held it. Once it usually holds, and we get an upward candle, I mean, if we get a positive candle that takes out Friday's highs, that would be extremely bullish, and we have no problem getting up there. So that's still active right now too. But all of these, most of these, if they're down here and we're looking at some really, this was kind of the theme last week, was kind of these cheap stocks that have really gotten hit. Most of those are showing up on the weekly. So I think even if the short-term volatility stops it out, I think, and this is what I wanted to do, a little experiment, is to look back at the weeklies here. So let's do this fast, and we're going to call it a day. But let's just take a look at some of the ones that broke down and stopped out in the last couple weeks, like the JBHT. Now that's on the watch list this week because it is a look at this. So we're right on looking at this to pull back. All right, but apparently there was some news, and this thing really got hit hard and just flushed right through, and then it bounced back up, and it's pushing back up. Now, of course, on the weekly, this whole weekly is a positive weekly candle. On the weekly, this would be a buy, and you wouldn't be concerned really with this stop here. You just understand this is a two-week bar, and it's starting to move back up. So if you go to JBHT, and you could see the weekly here, and you see that bottom car, and then this weekly candle right here takes out the previous high, which is important. And this one takes out the previous high, and we're starting to move back up. So we did break down through that that trend line, but nothing too severe there. I mean, I'm really think that weekly is going to play out on JHPT, JBHT, JB Hunt. All right, so I really think that's going to work out well for that one. The other one is Brinker. It's the same thing. We talked about it. It actually pulled back down. If we look at the, just came down. This started to move back up. That was the same situation. Same situation. We look at EAT Brinker. We have this candle. We have a higher candle. Something you haven't seen here too often. When you do get that bigger, higher high, lots of times you get that follow through. So we started to see some follow through. It hasn't lifted above the 20 line here, but we're back inside the pattern. And again, you have the weekly on your side. So you come down a little bit further than expected. You kind of capitulate. You take out the HPS stop, pushes back into the pattern, and then off to the races it goes. I mean, that is something that you have to have, understanding of. None of these things are set in stone. We try to give you guidelines on so that's why I really like the Boeing here, even though the Boeing, came down below the level, still looks good. It still looks really, really good, and I would continue to put it on the watch list as one of the best bets next week. And the same thing, JBHT, and so it's only really two stocks here. The Boeing, which is still great, and the JBHT here, which were two different signals there, and it just kind of flushed on some news. So it wasn't really a bad week with the HPS. It really wasn't. I am in some things now, and I'll do a final recap here. The Liongate Film, LGF, didn't really perform too well today. I mean, it kind of I started picking up some more options yesterday. Definitely thought we had the bottom in, and then today, boy, they broke it down pretty hard. So underwater on that. I'm not going to add to it until I get a positive candle on that. It does seem cheap, but that's not a word you want to use. ARRY, banging the table on this one. Continue to push. I think we're going to get through 30 next week. There's some good things coming down the pipeline on that. Veru, VERU, broke out. That's actually the weekly on this. Veru here breaking out. Not too far to get back up to the highs. We're back over $2. Got some good things. Oppenheimer raising their target today to $7. It's $2. I'm hearing some good things coming down the road. Very good things coming down the road. So you know my position on that. Very big position. And, it's a spec stock. A couple drug stocks I'm in that I like down here just to take that, that gamble. But, bigger payoff if we hit this one good. I mean, these could make your year. And I'm thinking about it here, I'm not against adding more to Vero, you know. All right, what else I have? My platform is down, but let me take a look at the trade alerts. Just kind of get the Schlumberger. We sold the Schlumberger. I bought the Lion Gate films. We sold the the Dropbox DBX was excellent. That's the weekly, but if we look at the daily, you'll see a much bigger pop off of this divergence. That's why we took that DBX divergence and a big pop. We sold into that pop right there. It's a good thing we did because it sold off from that. No problemo. We also got the nice pop in Schlumberger, and we took it off into that strength. So we kind of did a good job taking profits. We did take a little trade in the CRWD. I wasn't in it long. For a long time. Overnight, it was an IPO. We did okay on that. I had a lot of other ones here. Let me see where they are. Let me just kind of go through what we did. So sold the Schlumberger. Oh, that's under Schlumberger. Let me see. All right, bought the Lion Gate. Sold the Dropbox. Sold more Dropbox. I had like 11 calls on that. Bought the CR. Sold the Grub. We had a good trade on Grubhub. GRUB. Off a lower trend line. Pushed right up to the top trend line, took profits into it, forced myself to take profits. Also forced myself to take a loss in part of them because I scaled down on this. You know, got a bounce and then it pulled back and then I added some. So it was like we made a nice profit on some of them. The other one I was down in, and then I was kind of got most of it back, but it was a little loss. I took it off because we're up against that trend line. And if you get that's one of the most important things I could ever relay and teach across is learning how to take a loss, because it's the right thing to do. I mean, no one likes to take a loss, and it doesn't like, oh, he just took a loss. But really, I got most of the trade back. I was really underwater on it, and then all of a sudden it popped, and I was down like 40 cents instead of $2, and that was a victory in my book either way. And you just move on. You got a gift there. So the Grub here worked out good. The Rubbermaid, we got a nice pop on that. What did we get on that? No, we bought the Rubbermaid. We bought the June 19th, 59. Did I end up selling those? I didn't sell those yet. Yeah, that's a higher risk trade. And then I bought some more Boeing 357.50s at 340. Going out to June 21st. I really think Boeing moves next week. We did take some SPY calls and SPY puts. We did well on those. We sold our SPY puts, 10 of them, June 10, for 35 cents for an 18-cent gain, which was basically a double on that. We bought them for, what did we buy them for? I have it up here. And then the ARRY is doing really well. June 19 calls. I'm liking those. Sold a Revolve. I had some Revolve KHC. All right, so that's about it. Everything actually looks pretty good. If you have any questions or anything, you can email me or hit me up in the chat room on Twitter. I'll catch everyone. And I want to wish everyone a happy Father's Day, all the fathers out there. And if you have a father to spend time with, definitely do that. And I'll see everyone on Monday. I'm sorry. Actually, best bet, Boeing. And again, a little focus on the weekly patterns until what we talked about, all the overhead distractions kind of clear up a bit. All right. But I like the Apple, like the Boeing, and like the LUV and the Rubbermaid. All right. Those four. Have a great one. Happy Father's Day. And watch for the bot channel coming up soon. It's going to be amazing.